everyone. Welcome to The Renewed Mind. I am your host, Joy Ajayi. On today's episode, we have a very special guest in our midst. With us here is Reverend Father Maz Dile Onyenibadi. He is a priest of the Missionary of St. Paul MSP, and he will be enlightening us on the topic, the intersection of faith and mental health. Stay tuned. Thank you, Father, once again for joining us. In today's episode, like we earlier stated, our topic of discussion is the intersection of faith and mental health. And there are some concerns that we have concerning this topic. So our first question for today is, as a well-seasoned priest in the Catholic Church, how does one approach the relationship between spirituality and mental well-being?
Thank you for having me, and the topic is an interesting one. However, I have to make some preliminary observations, because people many a time, when they hear the word mental health, they misconstrue it to mean mental sickness. The two are not the same at all.
Yes, it's not.
And wild apart. So this conception has to be explained immediately, because simply explained, mental health applies to all persons. Mental health is for every human person, but mental illness is for those who, for one reason or another, are sick, are impaired. So that is not for everybody, and it comes once in a while. Some may have it for all life, but it is always the exceptional case. That is why mental health is generally defined as the state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with stresses in life. And the more they can cope with their stresses and overcome them, the easier for them to realize their abilities, or learn something, or work better, and contribute to the family, to the society. Because mental health is regarded as something psychological or emotional, which is to say, it is not something that lasts forever. It could easily be handled. But on the other hand, mental illness is known as mental health disorder, and that refers to a wide range of conditions that affect a person's thinking, feeling, mood, and behavior. So that one is a serious thing. Now, when some people come to spirituality, they try to mix up all this, but whether mental health or mental sickness, or they put all of them into spirituality, and it is a problem. Actually, it is a problem. So if people could know the difference, then they will know what is spiritual, what is mental health, or what is mental sickness.
Thank you, Father. So our second question is, can faith positively or negatively impact mental health? If it can, how?
Faith, to start with, from the Catholic perspective, I will always speak from the Catholic perspective, is a supernatural gift from God. Nobody acquires faith. You don't study it. You don't work for it. It is a given. But once you have received it, then you have to grow in it through observing the church's rules and regulations about prayer life, meditation, putting into practice all the baptismal promises to reject Satan, to reject this, and to be for God. Now, when one has faith, remember, a human being is made up of body and soul. It's a psychosomatic. Faith goes in the realm of the soul, connection with God. So if one has faith and has a very good relationship with God, faith helps one to cope with sicknesses. It doesn't mean that health cures sickness. There is a difference between curing sickness and helping one to cope with sickness. So faith comes in to help one to say, well, if this is the will of God, God, may your will be done. And depending on how that person responds to this will of God, miracle happens. The person gets cured immediately. But it is not that faith is medicinal or medication. Unless you call it spiritual medication, if there is anything like that. So faith helps in coping with these difficulties of life or sicknesses. When one abandons oneself into the hands of God, one accepts the illness or situation and leaves God to take control. That is where faith helps. But when one has no faith, it compounds it. Why? The person goes about trying to find out causes. Somebody must be behind this. Somebody, my enemy, will be behind this. And for this lack of faith, even something that could be minor may become major. Even a simple fly comes into the house by mistake, say, they sent this fly. And the person must make sure the fly dies. You see, so now it's no longer a case of mental health, it becomes now mental disorder.
Yes.
So this is how the whole thing balances. So faith helps those who believe to cope with situations that naturally they may not be able to cope. So, but lack of faith exposes one to one's own strengths and realities. So when one hasn't the strength to cope, then one breaks down. So that is why faith, even though it's a supernatural gift, the church encourages people, always pray for an increase in faith, because faith really helps a lot.
Thank you, Father. So our third question is, how do cultural and religious backgrounds influence mental health experiences?
Yeah, faith, culture, sometimes there is this an interplay, or there is a relationship. Somebody who is traditionally, for example, traditionally clung to the deities and tries to live and observe the rules of life according to the deity, and such a person gets converted, for example, they carry these traits of their devotedness to the deity or to whatever, or from their culture, they bring it into religion, into their Christian religion. And you see that the person becomes much more stronger, because the person will believe that what he or she was doing originally, not understanding, Christianity has helped to really understand them in a better way. So the person becomes more committed in the Christian faith, Christian living. And so in this case, you can say that culture and faith have something in common. Because even in culture, without giving it the name faith, they will tell you that they believe in this or that or that. That their belief is faith, but faith in something else other than what the Christians call their own faith. Now, when a traditionalist is converted, this aura of the being over there, a supreme being, which is now contained in the Christian religion and which is more explicit, the person now goes into it and immerses himself or herself into it. So you see that it looks like the person is, that's what they call enculturation. The person carries what is beneficial from the culture into religion, Christian religion. And the person becomes even stronger than those who were even born into the religion, who never had this type of cultural experience. So culture is not really antagonistic to faith, to Christianity, if people understand it very well. There is no antagonism there. It's a question of mental orientation and the spiritual growth. That is why, remember, all of us, before the advent of Christianity, we were practicing our own religion. So Christianity helps us to now bring that our religion, our religious belief, into a better pedestal. So those who, even without Christianity, those who never assimilated themselves into culture, wouldn't easily understand the language of Christianity. So Christianity helps culture to do better what they were doing in their own way before. St. Paul, when he went to the was preaching in Areopagus, he told the Athenians, "Oh, I can see you are religious people, even to an unknown God. This unknown God is whom I want to teach you about." And the people were very eager to hear about this unknown God, which is to say, they already had the seed of faith in them. You see now, so St. Paul was taking them from where they were to where they wanted to go. That is how it goes. So it is, if somebody tells you that culture is antagonistic to religion, Christian religion, I will really say the person does not understand the truth.
Thank you, Father. So, another question that we have is, what role do you think faith communities play in supporting mental health?
Yeah, as I said earlier, when mental health is seen for what it is, community should support it. For example, practical thing. Here in Archdiocese of Abuja, there is a mental health program that was introduced. Not all priests would like to go there. If you tell them, they say, "No way, they're all right, they're all right." I have gone to it. I'm one of the first persons there. First session, second session, we're going for the third one sometime later this year. Because mental health helps you to understand your feelings. For example, you are angry. Mental health helps you to know what is the cause of this anger. How could this be supported? How could you be helped? Mental health helps you to tell yourself the truth about your psychological or emotional status at any given time. And it is to the extent you master or accept, to that extent will you overcome them and then move on. So the Archdiocese of Abuja meant well to support, it's like a community now, to support the priests, because the stress of priesthood is so much in the parish. So mental health helps priests who undergo this program to understand better the vicissitudes in the parish, be able to meet parishioners where they are without allowing all the different things to come into because the priest is only one in the parish. Yes. And then you can have up to 1,000, only all of them bringing all their stresses onto you. Whether you like it or not, the priest absorbs so much. So mental health helps to unwind, to unload this and to help the priest to know what is the case or what is the situation and how to. That is where the Archdiocese as a community is assisting the priests to come to know about the stressful conditions in the priesthood and not to let them get mental disorder. Because if you don't handle mental health very well, it could degenerate to mental disorder, which is now sickness.
So, how do you think individuals can balance their faith with seeking professional mental help?
Yeah, individuals can balance their faith if, for example, like in the church, let me give you an example in the parish, I spend more time counseling people. Sometimes people come for confession and the Father, I have sinned, and I listen to them. When they finish talking, I said, okay, excuse me, I'm sorry, but these things you say now are more of counseling things than sins. Then I spend time trying to I use my training. I'm also a psychologist, so I use my training trying to, but I will tell them, this is psychology. This is no longer the sacrament of penance, of sin. So at the end of it all, I help them to know that, listen, this is not sinful, it's not sin, but it is stressful situation caused by this, by that. And you see some of them will be, at the end say, oh Father, thank you very much. But then, because they have come for confession, I will also give them some little penance prayers to say, to help them manage with the situation. And sometimes I will tell them, okay, if you like, you can come and meet me in the office and we can take it now more professionally. But otherwise, what I say to them helps them to go and then cope with their situation. So this is where there is a case of intersection. Their language, intersection, to say where they intersect. They are not the same thing, but they have a point of contact. So the same thing when people come to confession, for example, they are coming with perceived sins they have committed. But I help them to know that these things are not sins, but they are stressful situations or coming from either psychological imbalance or from emotional situations they found themselves in, and help them to identify those situations. And as I talk to them, you see how their faces will brighten up. Their faces will just brighten up. Their body language will just make me know that, okay, this person is now, coming out of where he or she thought he or she was. I say, no, it is not that. You have not offended God. You have not done this. But see and see and see. Now, if you can do this, you will help this situation and it will help you to take care of this, and then you'll be happier because you understand things better and not be thinking you have offended God and God is very angry with you. God is coming to come and use the sledgehammer. Yeah, so many of them, they will even much later, somebody will come, oh, Father, I came to the confession the other day. I'll be looking at this, I don't even remember anymore. I tell them, listen, when we are in the confessional, we are celebrating the sacrament. Once we leave there, we leave everything there. So we don't, they say, oh, but Father, I'm just telling you, what you said to me, it has me here. So whatever it was I said to you, keep doing it.
So our last question for the day is, how do you handle potential conflicts between faith beliefs and mental health treatment plans?
This question is bifocal. Bifocal in the sense that I, as a priest, handling my parishioner, I expect also from my parishioner who has come to me, either for counseling or for confession, to believe that I am in a position to help. Now, probably they will come with the mind of sacramental help. But when they notice that I'm also offering psychological help, it makes it easier. It joins the two together so that the people will, oh, our priest is also a counselor, he can counsel also. And so I help them to see how the sacrament of penance, I tell people always, is fundamentally healing. It is healing. It is a sacrament that heals. And so it is therapeutic. I help people to know the therapeutic nature of the sacrament. And the more they get to know of it, the more they are eager to avail themselves of the sacrament. You see now, in this case, we bring so many things together. That's why I said bifocal, beginning from sacraments, and then we are talking about now mental health situation, and they're helping the person to see now the two of them could merge together. Because once the person is coming from mental health perspective, unknown, but misconstrue that for sacramental sin. So the person comes with the mind of confessing sins. And my job is to help the person to know that this is more of a case of mental health, which is not natural. Everybody has it.
Yes.
So I help the person now to get to know that this is a mental health situation. And once the person gets to know it is a mental health situation, the first thing that happens is that the person now knows he or she is not offending God or has not offended God. But also, he or she has now gotten help to know how to handle this mental stress situation. Knowing that if he or she comes out of it, he or she will be very happy. And we go about, believing that her relationship with God has been smoothened and her psychological or emotional situation has also been taken care of. So but it is not so easy. It is not so easy. But that is why counseling office of priest is as vital as the sacrament of confession itself. But a priest is only one person. Look at all the people in his parish. If the priest was to attend to every this, then he wouldn't even have time for himself. So many of us, we sort of tend to soft pedal this mental health aspect and just limit ourselves to the sacraments. But getting the two of them helps a lot.
Thank you very much, Father. I learned a lot. The session was informative and mind-blowing, and I hope you listeners out there did too. So thank you very much, Father Mazdile Onyenibadi, for honoring our invitation to be on this episode. And that's all for today. I would like to thank our viewers and subscribers out there. I hope you found our discussion to be informative. On our next episode, we'll be talking about trauma, PTSD, and healing through faith practices. Please don't forget to comment, click the like button, share, and subscribe. Thank you.